We move on from conversation number 1 to conversation number 2, and we now put the spotlight on what's unfolded in the state of Andhra Pradesh in the last few days, and it's been horrifying. A kind of a mysterious illness struck the Godawari District of Andhra Pradesh over the weekend. And honestly, the gravity of it has only become bigger and bigger in the last 2 days, as hundreds of people flooded to hospitals in this Godawari district and around that area in Andhra Pradesh since Saturday night. Now, for 4 full days, it was even difficult to figure out what was going on. Why were these people falling ill? News reports began to suggest it was a mysterious disease in Eluru city. Now, while the mystery of the disease baffled the local experts, the state government itself, to the extent that a central team had to be sent in, including experts, we understand, from AIIMS, who went there to find out why were these people falling ill. Now, preliminary analysis of the test reports have shown some kind of toxins, metal toxins, lead and nickel, that has been found in what was being consumed by the people. And this isn't one area, this is in one community, these are villages. 500 people who over a period of 4 days fell ill. The AIIMS report says there was lead and nickel found in drinking water, milk. Heavy metal is the reason for people falling sick in this matter. This is just a preliminary report, but it is truly scary and it is shocking. And for 4 days, we couldn't even figure out what was going on, as the number of people who were falling ill just went up and up. The Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister has now ordered an inquiry and investigation. A team of health experts led by Union Health Ministry visited Andhra Pradesh as well to investigate the causes. People have been simply falling unconscious. They have been suffering from fits. They have been suffering from nausea. It's like a brief epilepsy. There has been vomiting, headache, backache, weakness. These are the symptoms that were visible in people. The fits obviously becoming extremely scary. So the question is, what's gone wrong? And what's the accountability of the local administration? What are people drinking or consuming? How can it be so dangerous? Let me say good evening to the panelists who are joining us right now. Dr. AVR Mohan, Medical Superintendent and DCHS for Eluru in the West Godawari District. Sudhakar Reddy, Senior Assistant Editor of Times of India, joining us this evening. Dr. Mehboob Sheikh, President of YSRCP, the Doctors Wing in Vijayawada, and Dr. Rakesh Mishra, Director for Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology, CCMB, joins us this evening. But I actually want to go across first up to Dr. AVR Mohan. Dr. Mohan, we are given to understand that the first set of cases came to you. What was happening to the people? What did it initially look like? Dr. AVR Mohan, can you hear me?
Yeah. I could hear you.
Yes.
From the 4th, we started getting the cases. Even before that, some of the private hospitals, they had similar cases, but they were very few in number. But from the 5th, we started having many number of cases, almost 18 cases per day initially, then it went on to hundreds. Now, presently, it has crossed 500. But the typical presentation is sudden loss of consciousness or sudden seizures. Who doesn't have a previous history of seizures also? And they had 1 or 2 bouts of seizures. Seizures with simple management and symptomatic treatment, they continue to be normal. They're staying for a day or 2 and then they are discharged without any symptoms. There are no neurological deficits or no other problem. Biochemically, all of them are normal, and we have undertaken certain investigations. Most of them are normal.
Okay, how widespread was this, Dr. A.V.R. Mohan? How many patients do you think you got in your hospital in your area in the last 4 days?
I could not hear you.
How many patients, did the hospital get in the last 4 days?
No, we had almost more than 570 patients visiting our hospital in these 3 days. Most of them are admitted and kept on observation for a day. And they are recovering with simple symptomatic treatment. None of them had any problem. Most of them, they had seizures for the first time in their life.
Okay, Dr. Mohan says, these people showed seizures for the first time in their lives. Sudhakar Reddy, Senior Assistant Editor of Times of India, has been also tracking this story very closely for us. Sudhakar, this is really shocking, what happened in the last 4 days. And, frankly, we didn't even know what it was for the first few days. Just take our viewers, who haven't heard about this so far, how it unfolded.
Yeah. The number of cases are coming down. No? It was more than 500 cases in the past few days, but today the number of cases have come down. So the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Mangalgiri, they have conducted blood tests and they found lead, nickel, and organochlorine pesticides. So what is important to us is like there is no fever as a symptom that rules out any pathogens, like because there are a lot of blood tests, pathogenicity tests conducted and nothing has been found. And more importantly, what AIIMS initial preliminary report says, it could be because seizures are one of the symptoms of lead toxicity, and as well as organochlorine pesticides like DDT and other pesticides used in agriculture fields could be one of the reasons, one of the possibilities that AIIMS is looking at. But what happened, more important thing is they are saying that it could be a water or a milk contamination, but probably it would be a water contamination. But what now authorities should find out is how the water got contaminated. I was speaking to the pollution control board. They were saying they took samples and they sent it to Vizag for checking. Vizag, they have a lab at Vizag. But it could be an industrial pollution that contaminating water source of Eluru Municipal Corporation. Eluru is a big town and surrounding villages also got affected because people from surrounding villages were coming to the city, to the town. And obviously they may be drinking the water. So now the question is, what is the primary contamination? Like if it is concluded, because they have taken further 40 samples to AIIMS for further tests, if it is concluded that it is due to lead or organochlorine pesticide contamination or toxicity, because this is a case of acute toxicity, not a chronic toxicity. So how did these lead or organochlorine pesticides come into the water? So that should be investigated, and Eluru Municipal Corporation should be accountable for this because it's a case of civic negligence. If at all the drinking water is contaminated, it's a clear case of civic negligence where whether industrial pollution or due to the negligence of the staff who were not checking the quality of water being supplied to the city. And I was speaking to the Health Commissioner Andhra, Mr. Bhaskar. He tells me that they have tested the samples in the past 2 days and there is no lead in it. What he says, we don't have samples of water that has been supplied few days back, in the past few days. So the question is, the water supplied few days back may had these whatever lead or organochlorine pesticides. So currently this is to be investigated, and whoever responsible, and the question is pollution control board, if it's industrial effluents coming and joining water source, so pollution control board is responsible for it, and whatever Eluru Municipal Corporation, they are the quality testing and all these, and police also need to be pitched into this investigation because it's a case of acute toxicity, either dumping of waste or maybe they can look into, as alleged by some of the political parties, they could into sabotage angle also they're looking at. So I think it is high time there should be some clear criminal investigation and accountability.
Yes, you're
as well
right
as,
there, Mr.
yeah.
Reddy. But first we need to find out exactly how it happened, this poisoning, and what is it, and how did it get to so many people. Dr. Rakesh Mishra, can you comment on that? The fact that maybe it was municipal water of the city, but it also impacted people outside the city. It's difficult to understand why such a large area, people across such a large area got impacted.
Yeah, so it's very difficult to say at this time, and most obvious thing appears that something that has come through the water, because that is one thing which many people have consumed all of a sudden. We received when we heard about this, we received these samples of some blood samples and a few more samples today, because apparently the state authorities wanted to rule out if there is any biological aspect to it, for example, any infection or anything of that kind. Although symptoms do indicate that it's more like a chemical toxicity, but we are looking at a different angle. We are looking at if there is any parasite involvement in this, whether it's fungal or viral or bacterial or protozoan, the kinds of bugs that cause malaria and things like that. And so we are investigating very thoroughly, and we will take several days to find the results. If there is any unusual known or even unknown parasite of any of these kind, we'll be able to figure out, because now there's technology to what we call as the metagenomics, which investigates every single parasitic presence in the human samples. So we are looking at the blood and the vomit samples, some fecal samples, urine, and so that we have received in past 2 days, and we'll know after some time if there is any such involvement of this thing. But any other thing from where these things have come, chemical and other thing are more simple. That means somebody is added. They don't multiply. They have to be simply added. While parasites and all multiply and they become more difficult to trace back. Although there are ways. So I think, as Mr. Sudhakar Reddy suggested, there should be thorough investigation of this, and it should be possible to find water samples of several days back. I'm sure if proper agencies go into investigation, they will be able to figure out. And I don't see the sabotage angle of this, but that may be my...
Let me ask you this before I go across to the YSRCP representative. Will these kind of symptoms and this kind of a disease and fallout be because of short-term consumption, or over a period? Can we suspect that over a period of time people have been consuming polluted liquid?
The way it looks, I'm really must qualify my statement that I'm not expert of this, but the way the symptoms are, it looks like a sudden exposure of things. Because if it's a short time, then it will slowly accumulate, and it will not go away that fast, because that means you're talking something being accumulated. Here, something is happening. People are getting symptom. Once they reach there, they are treated symptomatically, and slowly system clears off whatever toxin is there, and they recover. That is why it also kind of reduces the possibility that it's some parasite that is operating. It's most likely some toxic chemicals, whereas lead, nickel, and all those experts will figure it out. But it's like sudden exposure. It doesn't look like a slow, gradual accumulation, because then the pattern of the disease and pattern of the recovery will be very, very different.
Okay, let me ask Dr. Mehboob Sheikh, President of the YSRCP Doctors Wing in Vijayawada. Dr. Sheikh, what is the government's initial, investigation into this, telling us what happened here? 500 people fell sick in 4 days.
Yeah, good evening everyone. Because here our CM Jagan Mohan Reddy, immediately after knowing, he has taken necessary steps by calling all the ICMR and specialists from the different states, and he has taken necessary steps. We are also investigating. We are also shocked. Initial samples has shown that it is normal. The 2 samples has shown normal, where there is no lead or nickel, something like that. Still, we have a transparency. What is the exact cause? Still, it was not identified. But according to the AIIMS doctors, they said there is a lead and nickel has mixed in water or something like that. At the same time, now we have to probe a serious investigation against this. Actually, I have a doubt as a doctor. I can say it is seen in Eluru constitution where rural area where previously TDP government ex-MLA by name Chantamneni Prabhakar, his hand might be there in this situation. It may be suspected.
What do you mean by that? Why without, we don't even know, and we heard two experts here talk about it. I have the preliminary report of AIIMS as well. Doctor, how do you know it is a political sabotage even before knowing what happened to people?
Well, exactly, a municipal corporation is giving a thorough check daily and they are giving the water. If there is a problem in the municipal supply or without seeing the samples, if they are sending through corporation or something, necessary action has to be taken by them. But after taking preliminary 2 samples, it came very normal. And now we have to see what is exactly happened.
No, you are saying that the municipal water is regularly tested, but that's what Sudhakar Reddy is telling us. A journalist, senior editor from Times of India, is saying that they are claiming they don't even have the samples of water from last few days. Clearly, no testing is happening.
Yeah, they had taken initial samples and they had done the testing, but actually that time the report was said to be it is very normal and they have to investigate exactly what happened. But today's sample they found that there is lead and nickel in that. Maybe groundwater defect, or is there any defect? We have to find out, roll out.
Have there been any such instances in this area in the past, Dr. Rakesh Mishra, of such kind of a mass level poisoning that may have happened because of water they have consumed?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if such a thing was there before. I'm not aware of this.
Yeah.
So it looks like some new contaminant from somewhere. Let's assume that if it is lead or nickel and this kind of contamination, so that means it looks like, as I said, so I'm not expert of this. May sudden influx of somewhere, whether industrial waste or some leakage of something, and it looks like in a certain part of the water supply this has happened. And other interesting thing is that I understand in the same family, some people have shown symptoms and some have not shown symptoms. So maybe the level is not that high, and therefore some people can escape. Their body can clear off relatively easily, while others get into symptoms. So I think this is something new, which means as I said, professional bodies, when they will investigate whether some new pipe has gone from somewhere, or there's some tanker has stopped somewhere, what kind of industrial activities are around, what are the possibility in that, and I mean pesticide and other things. All of a sudden they can't come in the system unless there is a accident which went unreported.
Yes, that is, something that the government needs to look into if there was an accident that went unreported. In fact, Sudhakar Reddy, just to get, your view on this, in this area, for people who don't know, are there a lot of industries or other, sources of pollutants that may have somewhere leaked into the water? What are the experts really saying about the possibilities?
Yeah, there are industries, chemical industries in this district of Godavari, and the Pollution Control Board is currently working on. They have taken around 25 samples from the effluents released from these industries, because there is a possibility of effluents joining water source. But as being said by Dr. Rakesh, it's like the preliminary report says it could be acute toxicity of lead or organochlorine pesticides. But I think 40 samples are again being sent to AIIMS. We have a AIIMS at Mangalgiri in Andhra Pradesh. So I was speaking to Rakesh Kakkar, who is a medical superintendent there. So what he says is like nickel, there is no nickel poisoning symptoms, but lead seizure is one of the lead poisoning symptoms, he says. And the other one is more of a DDT, like banned chemical DDT, which is used for anti-mosquito control, is also present in high levels, toxic levels in these blood samples. So far, only evidence that is coming out is acute toxicity or sudden exposure to the toxic levels of heavy metals or pesticides. So obviously, this can be due to the industries around Eluru, or because even the kids are victims, because if it accumulates over the period of time, it won't happen suddenly that it shows up. It's a sudden exposure. So another important thing, what I was checking with them is like, will pregnant women in that area, will the other vulnerable sections of the society, are they be susceptible for this kind of exposure? I think because what I was being told is like, if it's a chronic thing, they will be susceptible and further exposure. I think municipal corporation should continuously monitor water, milk, and even NIN, National Institute of Nutrition from Hyderabad, they picked up vegetable, fruit samples there to find out whether there is any contamination happening. So the mystery seems to be like little bit the mystery illness, which we are calling for the past few days. There is some kind of initial leads coming out, but this needs a thorough medical and what I feel a criminal probe also should be launched. Because it's a clear case of what negligence, if at all, it's a water contamination.
Yes, and I just want to point out, we have now reached this point, about, a high level of metal toxicity in perhaps being the reason. After quite a bit of investigation that went on, 22 samples of drinking water were initially tested, which were normal, we were given to understand. Some blood samples were taken, CT scans were done. A team of over 50 doctors were actually involved in handling all of these patients and investigating the cause of it. And there was quite a lot of confusion and cluelessness in the first couple of days, obviously, as these tests were being conducted. Now, the big question is, Dr. Sheikh, of how, until we find out what it is, how do we ensure more people don't get it? Because we don't know what the source is, how do we make the rest of those people living in that area safer?
Here, the rescue team, like doctors, 24 hours, they are doing their services untiredness. At the same time, the Jagan Mohan Reddy CM sir is also taking very utmost care towards to the patients, and very less 1 or 2 mortality rate according to yesterday statistics has been seen. But no doubt that we'll come out of this event within soon, and we'll investigate Jagan Mohan Reddy. If there is a criminal attitude by some other political scenario also, we won't spare, and we'll definitely we'll probe into that, and we'll investigate thoroughly, and we'll take necessary steps. But we give the assurance to the public that our governance, definitely they will stand for the public, and whatever we never see what is the cost or something like that. We'll do utmost care for the patients, and we'll treat with the best.
All right, I am completely out of time. Thank you to all of you for joining us here and speaking to us. Sudhakar Reddy and Dr. Rakesh Mishra, appreciate both of you also joining us, and helping our viewers understand what happened. I just want to highlight a few examples. Imagine, viewers, it sounds like something that has, we heard about decades ago in the 80s and the 90s, this kind of toxin poisoning taking place with the water that we are drinking. But a police constable, Kiran Kumar, he collapsed while he was on duty and says he is now completely scarred with the experience he went through. He was semi-conscious now for over 2 hours. His colleagues told him later on that he was shouting and then he completely collapsed. After that, he injured his right shoulder. Mr. K. Gangadhar complained of giddiness and headache after returning home from his two-wheeler garage. He vomited within a few minutes. He was not even able to sit. He started having convulsions and then he collapsed. Imagine the plight of his family members to see him like that. 14-year-old Sekhar suffered from serious headache and then convulsions came along. And you know, for half a day he was okay when other cases were being reported, and suddenly his family says he began to cry because of that headache. It was so bad and that he was, you know, feeling giddy. Jaya Deepthi, 16-year-old, a class 10 girl, was gasping for breath, and nurses at the hospital had to put her on oxygen to help her breathe normally. And obviously people become even more panicky. You don't know what's happening to you, why it's happening. Suddenly all around you, you're seeing such cases. Over 500 cases since Saturday night. And we're still trying to find out what went wrong. And because we don't know the source for this illness, why it's been caused, and where is that lead and nickel and that metal coming from, how is it entering our bodies, we don't know if more people will fall ill. Let's hope the Andhra Pradesh government, along with centre support, is able to not just find the source, but if there are those who've intentionally played with our lives, with people's lives, and put their health at risk, those people are held accountable for this. Thank you for joining us on this conversation.